Madam Clerk, is the mic on? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Griffin.
Here.
Bishop. Conwell. Gray. Hairston. Harsh.
Here.
House Jones.
I got you.
Jones. Casey. Kelly. Moorer. McCormack. Polensik. Santana. Slife. Spencer. Starr. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
All right, will everyone please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll lead in once again by making the following statement. This meeting of Cleveland City Council is a lawful meeting under Section 605.04 of the Codified Ordinances. No person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public are invited to speak only under the rules set by this council. Disruptions, including but not limited to speaking out of turn and making loud noises and loud utterances, are in violation of the rules and interfere with the due conduct of this lawful meeting. Such disruptions may constitute a misdemeanor and a violation of 605.04. Anyone who disrupts this lawful meeting in violation of the codified ordinances commits misdemeanors and is subject to prosecution. The following is the first and only warning. If this meeting is disrupted, I will gavel a halt to the proceedings and direct the assembled officers to escort any person participating in the disruption out of the chamber. Once persons participating in the disruption are outside of the chambers, the officers will close the doors and the disruptors will be handled as directed by the Director of Public Safety. The council proceedings will not begin again until those that participated in the disruption have left the chamber and the chamber doors are closed. Disruptors will not be allowed back in the chamber after the meeting resumes. Again, this is the first and only warning. Madam Clerk, please dispense with the journal.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the reading of the minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with the journal approved, seconded by Councilmember House Jones.
Thank you. We now have public comment, and once again, I'd ask all council members to acknowledge the speakers, and I'd ask all speakers to acknowledge your 3-minute time limit. When you see the yellow, that means to wrap it up. When you see the red, that means to abruptly stop. Okay? The first person we have is Richard Wright. He's from Shaker Heights. He's here to talk about gun control at the airport, IX, transportation, and he's not representing anyone and he's not being paid by anyone. Is Richard Wright here? Richard Wright going once, Richard Wright going twice. I do not see Richard Wright. We'll move on. The next person is Dantes Taylor. If we can escort Dantes to the microphone. Dantes is from Cleveland. He's here to talk about the Juvenile Detention Center and County Department of Children and Family Services. He's not representing anyone, and he's not being paid by anyone. Dantes, you have the floor. Thank you, Officer Marisol, for escorting them to the table.
It's already, it's right here.
Okay. And can you give this to them?
Right here, right here.
Okay. Hello, my name is Dantes Taylor, and I am coming to the council to see how they can help me get into the Juvenile Detention Center to talk about the lead epidemic that's out here right now and everything else. And I have 17 proposals right here, right now, to get the help that I need to get in there so we can advocate for our kids in our juvenile detention center and everything else, and find out how we can get prayer back into City Council.
Thank you, Dantes. Next, we have Matthew Ahn. Matthew Ahn is from Ward 3. He's here to talk about redistricting. He is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Mr. Ahn, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. My name is Matthew Ahn. It's good to be back here again. I'm here in my personal capacity to talk about the Cleveland City Council redistricting process, but my remarks are shaped by my experience as part of the Speakers Bureau for Citizens Not Politicians Ohio and by my legal work in the voting rights field. The ideal redistricting process is a non-political one that elevates the people, preserves communities of interest, and provides meaningful representation. We know that when these principles are pushed aside for things such as incumbent protection, partisan advantage, or other political considerations, that democracy weakens. That may sound alarmist, but the data tells us that gerrymandered maps are voter suppression. They lower voter turnout, erode faith in government, and result in less productive legislative bodies at every level. Cleveland's own voter turnout problem is very complex, but it is likely made worse by the maps drawn back in 2013, which have obvious hallmarks of gerrymandering, such as in the shapes of wards 10, 11, and 12. After all, it's very obvious when maps are drawn for incumbent protection. The secretive process used provide no protections against political dealing and was described back then as an insult to the democratic process. I happen to agree with that statement wholeheartedly, and I thank Councilman Polensek for his remarks to that effect in 2013. Things have changed in the last decade, though. We have new council leadership and new council membership, and drawing districts is not an esoteric or technical exercise in 2024. Fair maps can be drawn by you or me or anyone in this room without too much trouble. A minute and a half ago, I emailed every member of council a map, which I also have here, that took me about 45 minutes to put together. One that preserves communities of interest, one that uses that maximizes the use of rivers, highways, and railroads to draw borders. I know this map isn't the only one that's been publicly shared. I'm not saying you have to use this map, but if the map you use appears to be more gerrymandered, just remember, it's very obvious when maps are drawn for incumbent protection. We are collecting signatures to eliminate gerrymandering at the state level, as we've all seen the harm that a gerrymandered state assembly can inflict on the city of Cleveland. We as Democrats cannot claim to be the party of good government while ignoring the harms that are mirrored on a local level by unfair maps that we have the power to redraw. I therefore will join the Cleveland NAACP in urging this council to use a transparent process for the redrawing of Cleveland's wards. And furthermore, I would urge council to use a process where public input and citizen-drawn maps play at least a meaningful role, if not a primary one, a process where multiple maps are submitted simultaneously to council for consideration, whether drawn by citizens or not, and a process where collaboration between citizens and members of council can create compromise maps. I also urge this council, when any map is discussed or comes up for a vote, to be guided first by the fairness of the maps and the preservation of communities of interest, and to vote no on any map that falls short of the spirit of fair maps. Finally, if anybody needs to sign the anti-gerrymandering petition, please see me. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Basma Hamid from Rocky River. She's here to talk about tax money belongs to the community, not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Basma, you have the floor.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening. According to Spectrum News on 4/11, for more than 30 years, all Ohio treasurers have been investing in Israeli bonds. The total now is $313 million since Treasurer Sprague took office. Ohio is now one of the largest government holders of the said bonds in the United States. Cuyahoga County invests $16 million. Franklin County invests $2.5 million. Key Bank invests $15 million. The city of Cleveland invests $8 million. It all adds up to $354.5 million. These types of investments are used by the Zionist occupiers and illegal settlers to steal the land of the Palestinians and ethnically kill children and innocent people in Gaza and Palestine. We deserve to choose the lifestyle we want to live and still feel safe in our communities. We need to improve the well-being of the taxpayers' daily life, public safety, and financial stability. We are thriving here to make a living and pay our taxes on time deemed necessary so we don't become homeless. We need to be investing in our children and youth by providing universal child care, free before and after school care, and free youth sports clubs and activities. Affordable public housing must be available to the public regardless of their income. I hereby call all these entities to divest from investing in those bonds and bring the money back into our communities. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Next, we have Jamie Brazier. Jamie Brazier is here to talk about Marion Seltzer School. Jamie Brazier is from Ward 15, not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Jamie, you have the floor.
Mayor Bibb and council members, I am Jamie Brazier from Ward 15. Mayor Bibb, now that you have become a climate mayor and are enlightened on how important trees and environment are to Cleveland, shouldn't you, as a climate mayor, strive to save Cudell Park along with its trees and green space from being devastated by a poorly designed school just for the sake of building a school? I would believe if you truly had any compassion in defining yourself as a climate mayor, you would work with the whole community of Cudell, not just one person, to help create a school design that will not interfere with the current green footprint of Cudell Park in constructing the new Marion Seltzer Elementary School. Cudell Park was a gift from Frank Cudell, a well-known Cleveland architect who was also very much into green environment, parks, and flower gardens. Over 100 years ago, in his will, his gift of Cudell Park was to be a park forever. Mayor Bibb, prove yourself as the climate mayor you say you are and remedy this situation. The Cudell community has a high voter turnout and will not support any future school levies that may be proposed to cover deficits and the legal fees, which has cost the taxpayers over $456,000 for the city's and Cleveland school system's fight against the Friends of Cudell Commons Park. Nor will the Cudell community support a vote for a climate mayor that may be running for office in the future if there is no intervention. Being retired daily, I look at the park and I am the eyes and the ears when there is trouble or crimes being perpetrated. Once the wall of the current school project goes up, blocking my view, I guarantee crime will also go up. The design will also take away my peaceful moments of sitting on my porch with a cup of coffee, simply enjoying nature. Greta Thunberg said at the UN Climate Summit, "You have stolen my childhood." I'm not saying I'm anything like her, but I am saying you are taking away from my golden years, and I will fight with all I have left into me to save Cudell Park. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Raleigh Petro. Raleigh Petro is from Ward 17. He's here to talk about the endorsement of resolution number 366-2024. He's with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, Northeast Ohio, and not being paid by anyone.
So I'm not here to give any praise to City Council for passing a ceasefire resolution after 17 weeks of public comment, and I sincerely hope that you were not expecting any. However, I'd like to take my time to address Mayor Bibb's refusal to endorse the resolution and the disingenuous statements he made in support of his decision. Mayor Bibb states that, quote, "The city was united in horror at Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, and Israel has a right to defend itself," unquote. This echoes his statement in October that, quote, "Cleveland stands with Israel in the face of terror," unquote. What Mr. Bibb leaves out is that the people of Gaza have been living under a blockade since 2007, where food, medicine, fuel, even access to electricity had been severely restricted by Israel. He leaves out that Israel has been illegally occupying Palestine and expanding settlements since 1948, committing ethnic cleansing and displacing families from their homes. He even leaves out that there is credible evidence that the Israeli military is responsible for many of the civilian deaths on October 7th, as reported by Israeli media such as Haaretz. Most damning of all is his insistence that the city of Cleveland stands with Israel when, after 17 weeks of struggle, the people of Cleveland continuously came out in support of Palestine and for a ceasefire resolution. But Mr. Bibb doesn't stand with the people of Cleveland. He stands with his former employer, Key Bank, with power brokers like Dan Gilbert, and with campaign donors like James Ratner, who all support Israel Bonds and the Zionist Jewish Federation, which resides in Beechwood, not Cleveland. While his constituents were making their case to council for a resolution, our mayor had made no move to retract his statements, and when the resolution finally came to his desk, he refused to sign it. I hope you've enjoyed your time as mayor, because after this one and only term in any political office, you'll only be remembered as a coward who stood for genocide.
Next, we have Fauzi Badur from Ward 11 to talk about Cudell Park, representing the Friends of Cudell Commons Park and not being paid by anyone.
Good evening. I'm Fauzi Badur. Though I vote in Ward 11, I'm resident of two wards, 11 and 15. I will talk about Cudell Park and the land swap that this council voted for mostly. I'll come back to tell you about myself. 1954, the city of Cleveland decided to build fire station in Cudell Park. The community then opposed, and strongly opposed, and the mayor then, we had a mayor in the city of Cleveland named Anthony Calabrese, told him, we can't relocate the community. We can't relocate the fire station. Look for other place and build the fire station. That was a public servant and a hero and a giant in City Hall. The other story, in 1977-78, we had the worst blizzard in Cleveland. And we had illuminating company went by force to buy Munilite. A hero down at City Hall named Dennis Kucinich stood up to them. The bank closed up and the city demanded their notes being paid, put the city into default. Dennis Kucinich still said no and put the issue in referendum for people to decide, and the people overwhelmingly voted to keep and save Munilite. And that's why we still have Munilite now, because that's public servant was at City Hall. The last hero down at City Hall was Michael White. When some people made a deal with a church to sell part of a park to build a church, Michael White stood and said, Cleveland parks are not for sale. That's another hero. That's the last hero down in City Hall. The three mayors came after him. Sorry, don't exist. We're looking for a hero right here. I'm looking for a hero. This council should be our hero. Come back to tell you about myself. We moved to this house on Marietta Avenue in May 23rd, 1981. That house blocked a stretch of West 99, blocked the southern end of that stretch. Ms. Spencer knows that. And Cudell Park blocked the north end of that stretch.
Ms. Badur, that's your time. I'll let you get one last comment out, but his time is up.
Thank you. From that house, I could see Cudell Park. I mean, clearly. My kids grew up in Cudell Park. and they were involved in every sport that Cudell offered.
Mr. Badur, I do have to move on. I apologize. Your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nikki Hudson from Cudell. Nikki Hudson is here to talk about saving Cudell Park. Nikki represents Friends of Cudell Commons Park. Please adhere to the time set forth.
Thank you. My name is Nikki Hudson. I live in the Cudell neighborhood on the west side of Cleveland, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Friends of Cudell Commons Park. A little over 3 years ago, in March of 2021, Cleveland City Council voted unanimously to trade land at Cudell Park, land that was surreptitiously deemed surplus property, for land in other parts of the city that were ultimately offered to developers. My question for those of you here tonight who were also on council back then, did you realize that you were voting to trade away the Cudell neighborhood's only park? And did you know that your vote would contribute to the destruction of 40 healthy, mature trees in a neighborhood with even less of a tree canopy than the city as a whole at just 16% coverage? This land at Cudell Commons Park was a gift to the city of Cleveland over a century ago by famed Cleveland architect Frank Cudell, who designed such notable structures as the Perry Payne Building on Superior Avenue and St. Stephen's Church on West 54th. Frank Cudell gave this land to the city on the condition that it remain a park forever, which is not only written in his will, but also on the 1906 deed transferring this land to the city, forever for park purposes. Instead of being a steward of this wonderful gift, the city instead decided they had no use for this land and traded it away without any notice to the public. I'd also like to address Mayor Bibb. My question for him is, how do you justify destroying the Cudell neighborhood's only park and its mature, healthy trees while serving as chair of the Climate Mayors? Is CMSD's plan to put a cookie-cutter building on what is currently green space and then cut down all the trees to make it fit, building a better future with a clear vision for protecting the environment? And how does this development support your vision of ensuring equitable access to quality public parks? As I mentioned, Cudell Commons Park is the Cudell neighborhood's only park. Wiping it out with the construction of this school will force nearby residents to walk 30 minutes or more to reach the type of quality green space that you've been promising as part of your citywide Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Although you were not in office when all of this started, you are in office now and have the power to fix this. Don't allow the destruction of this historic green space, this gift to the residents of the city of Cleveland. Council members, Mayor Bibb, save Cudell Park.
Next, we have Juan Collado Diaz from Ward 11 to talk about Cudell Park. He's from the Sensible Movement Coalition, and he is not being paid by anyone.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Council members. Good evening, everybody here. My name is Juan Collado Diaz, as you all know, and I'm here to speak about Cudell Park. So the current situation with the park, as all my colleagues back here have said, is the only park in our community. I am not even a member of the community, but my grandmother is, and she uses the park on a daily basis to hang out with her friends, and it's the most walkable park to her. Cutting the park away and taking all the trees and stuff will make her have to find another location, and as an elderly woman, that is hard for her, who has lived in this neighborhood for over 30 years. That is the number one thing that saddens me, and it makes me lose more respect that I have lost for every single one of you as of today. 17 weeks ago, you know how that went, and I have lost a lot of respect. Now it's more, knowing that most of you have voted to cut the trees and trade this land. Cudell put in his will that this park was to be kept and to not be removed forever. So it was just to be there. Whoever was here, and if it's not true, you can look at the will, but it clearly says that. Councilwoman, I do appreciate you telling me that, but it's on the will and it is on the deed, so you're all more than welcome to look at it and check. Again, the park was given to the community, to the people, and it is not that we're opposing the school. There is plans, and we have shared plans, which I can email every single one of you, which I will do tonight, so please check your emails. We have proposed a better plan to still build the school and keep the land from getting, like the trees from getting cut or the land for disappearing. That park is used by kids every day, which I'm, again, inviting every single one of you to stop by and look at the kids playing basketball, tennis, just soccer, like playing whatever they can in there. And on our Eclipse Day event that we had at the park, we have people showing up from all around the country. Not just Cleveland, we have people from California, we have people from Pennsylvania, we have people from New York even come down here. Then we're coming to the film festival and stop at Cudell instead of stopping at any other park in the city. So if that doesn't tell you enough already, we will send you more information if you want, and it will show you that the park is necessary for the people. We have had some of the council people that already agree with us. We want the rest of you to also agree with us. With that said, I also wanted to add that the mayor of Cleveland claims to be this climate mayor who's charging thousands of dollars for people to attend his conference, talk about capitalism there, and he's not doing anything to save the trees, but more to build parking lots that you guys can charge people $80 on Eclipse days to come and see. With that said, thank you so much for having me, and have a good night.
Next, we have Ann Armstrong. Ann Armstrong is from Ward 15. She's here to talk about protecting Cudell Park and sharing data related to it. She is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Ann, you have the floor.
Thank you. City Council members, thank you for this opportunity to share. My name is Ann Armstrong. I am a resident of the Cudell neighborhood for 11 years. I love my community and am active in my neighborhood block club. In the summer of 2023, I learned that nearly half of the neighborhood's historic Cudell Park had been swapped by the City of Cleveland and given to CMSD. We asked our council person for a meeting immediately, and we were stunned to see a new version of the school design with a massive footprint that destroyed community green space, 40 mature trees, playing fields, and basketball courts. I watched as citizens were incredulous at the news, not having heard anything about this exchange of their public park. We then learned this council body, or whoever was here at that time, unanimously voted for this land swap in March 2021 during COVID without any questions. Really? No questions about a public park being given away? This showed me that not everything that passes through this body is vetted, discussed, or critiqued, as most citizens would expect of their public officials. Later, we learned our public park was termed surplus land by city official DeRosa. Even though Frank Cudell bequeathed the land to the city with the stipulation that it remain parkland and flower gardens forever, his request was completely ignored. So we started a petition to educate citizens and save the park, and it has over 2,070 signatures to date. I meet people at our park who still have no idea that the city traded their park away, including a father playing basketball with his son who was so angered to hear this that he said he'd call the mayor right away. I met Kwame. He gives his free time supporting teens at the outdoor basketball courts. His passion for the park and those teens is huge, and he was outraged. He couldn't believe it. He said, "Why don't they talk to us?" And then there are kids who come to pet my dog, Charlie, on the big grassy field, saying, "Can I pet him, please?" And then when they hear about the plans, they look at me, why? Why would they give our park away? Good question, right? They were asking questions. Are you listening to what your people value? We value outdoor fields, courts, and community green space, and trees for clean air. Cudell has one of Cleveland's lowest tree canopy rates and highest asthma rates. Think about it. Public health is what this park provides to me and my neighbors. I urge this body and our new climate mayor, Bibb, to reconsider how you interact with the public and how you protect the public parkland. Citizens deserve to be heard, respected, and trust definitely needs to be restored. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please revert to communications.
File number 419-2024 from Director Alyssa Hernandez, Department of Community Development. Notice of acceptance of property donation from the Northeast Shores Development Corporation to be used for public parking. File number 397-2024, dedication plat for H.C. Columbus Townhomes subdivision, east side of Columbus Road between Freeman and Wiley Avenue, approved by committees on municipal services and properties and development planning and sustainability. Without objection, plat approved. From the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, file number 395-2024, regarding a new license application at 3224 West 73rd Street, Ward 3. File number 396-2024, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 12704 Buckeye Road, Ward 4.
Are there any condolence resolutions?
Resolutions of condolence by Councilmember Griffin for Norma Juanita Edwards Fleming, by Councilmember Griffin for Ina Ray Madison, by Councilmember Griffin for Judge Lillian J. Green, by Councilmember Hairston for Stephen Lamar Jones, by Councilmember Griffin for Carolyn J. C.J. Prentice, by Councilmember Polensek for Michelle Wall, by Councilmember Starr for Cleo Davis.
Are there any other condolence resolutions? Councilwoman Jasmine Santana.
Hello. Okay, can you hold out a number for Finity Santiago?
So noted.
Anybody else? Any other councilman? Okay. Well, seeing no other condolences, will all council members rise for a moment of silence? Thank you. Are there any congratulatory resolutions?
Resolutions of congratulations by Councilmember Griffin for Erica Poussar, by Councilmember Griffin for Johnny K. Wu, by Councilmember Griffin for Donna Brady, by Councilmember Griffin for Ambassador Edward Crawford, by Councilmember Griffin for Veronica Dahlberg, by Councilmember Griffin for Fair Housing Awareness Month, by Councilmember Griffin for Sri Subramaniam, by Councilmember Griffin for Mickey Hardwick-Lett. Resolutions of welcome by Councilmember Jones for Senior United States District Judge Barbara M.G. Ryan, U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas. Resolutions of commemoration by Councilmember Griffin for Dr. Eugene Jordan.
First reading emergency. Oh, there are no presentations. So, Councilman Polensek, did you have a point?
Hold out a number of congratulations to Slovenian Consul General Lenka Jeric. Thank you.
So noted.
All right. First reading emergency ordinances referred for administrative review and committee review.
Ordinance 398-2024 by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into an agreement with the Urban League of Greater Cleveland or its designee to assist with costs related to outreach, assistance, and administration of the UBiz Microloan Fund and assistance, training, and planning for small businesses through the Entrepreneurship Center. Ordinance 399-2024 by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request to amend Section 1 of Ordinance 255-2023 relating to the design, installation, implementation, management, and maintenance of neutral host distributed antenna system at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Ordinance 400-2024 by Councilmembers Conwell and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Health to apply for and accept a grant from the Ohio Department of Health for the Title X program, authorizing the Director to charge and accept fees, entering into one or more agreements to receive payments from Medicare, Medicaid, Medicaid HMO, and other third-party insurers, and authorizing contracts with various entities, requirement contracts, professional services, and advertising contracts necessary to implement the grant. Ordinance 401, 2024 by Council Members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a grant agreement with Jumpstart or its designee to assist with costs related to providing technical and financial assistance to Cleveland businesses. Ordinance 402, 2024 by Council Members McCormack and Bishop by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to execute a deed of easement granting to the East Ohio Gas Company, DBA Dominion Energy Ohio, certain easement rights in property located at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and declaring that the easement rights granted are not needed for the city's public use. Ordinance 403, 2024 by Council Members Bishop and Hairston by departmental request, authorizing the Directors of Public Works and Capital Projects to execute various deeds of permanent, temporary, and subterranean easement granting to the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District certain easement rights at or under several city-owned properties for the sewer district's southerly tunnel and consolidation project, and declaring the easement rights not needed for the city's public use. Ordinance 404, 2024 by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Works to enter into a license agreement with the Convention and Visitors Bureau of Greater Cleveland, DBA Destination Cleveland or its designee, to install and maintain graphic art on city-owned property at 205 West St. Clair Avenue for a period of 5 years, automatically renewing from year to year. Ordinance 405, 2024 by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of trees and labor and materials needed for urban forestry services, including but not limited to maintaining and planting trees and removing trees, stumps, and tree waste material for the Division of Park Maintenance and Properties, Department of Public Works, and the Departments of Aging and Community Development for a period of 1 year with 1 year option to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Works. Ordinance 406, 2024 by Council Members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Mayor and the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to sell city-owned properties no longer needed for the city's public use located at 1848 East 101st Street and 9910 Woodland Avenue to Gordon Crossing Land Company for the purposes of future development. Ordinance 407, 2024 by Council Members Polensek, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Mayor and the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to sell certain city-owned property no longer needed for the city's public use located at the southeast corner of Grovewood Avenue at East 164th Street to Greater Cleveland Habitat for Humanity or its designee for the purposes of future development. Ordinance 411, 2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into one or more contracts with the Near West Side Multi-Service Corporation, DBA May Dugan Center, to provide services to refugees in Cleveland. Ordinance 412, 2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, to provide for the transfer and amendment to the general fund appropriations in the amount of $3,217,143. Ordinance 413, 2024 by Council Members Santana and Griffin by departmental request to supplement the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio by enacting new section 143.06 relating to applications for the acceptance of grants and other funding and services from any public or private entity to place fellows and interns in various city departments. Ordinance 414, 2024 by Council Members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of ballistic vests for the Division of Police, Department of Public Safety for a 1 year period with 2 1-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Safety. Ordinance 418, 2024 by Council Members Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request to vacate a portion of Curtis Avenue Northeast, east of East 59th Street.
Thank you. First reading emergency ordinances to be passed. Councilwoman House Jones.
Yes, please put my name as a sponsor on ordinance 406 as well as 418.
Please add
So noted.
Councilwoman House Jones to both of those. Anybody else? Okay. First reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 408, 2024 by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Pioneer Ohio City Bigfoot Race on June 29, 2024, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 415, 2024 by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request to amend Ordinance 918, 2021 as amended by Ordinance 512, 2022 relating to the purchase or lease of passenger boarding bridges, including installation parts, appurtenances, and other expenses, and the purchase of a passenger boarding bridge from JBT Aerotech Corporation, now known as Oshkosh Aerotech, to add additional services. Ordinance 416, 2024 by Councilmembers McCormack, Starr, Griffin, House Jones, Conwell, and Hairston, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Pan American Games races, July 21st, 2024, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 417, 2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, approving the collective bargaining agreement with the International Longshoremen Association, Local 1317, and to amend Section 19 of Ordinance 194, 2021 as amended, relating to compensation for various classifications.
Thank you. Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember House Jones.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. First reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 409, 2024 by Councilmember Griffin, fixing the 2024 summer schedule of meetings of the Council of the City of Cleveland. Resolution 410, 2024 by Councilmember Hairston, withdrawing objection to the transfer of ownership of a D5, D6 liquor permit at 14804 St. Clair Avenue and repealing Resolution 142, 2024, objecting to said permit.
Okay. Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember House Jones.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on adoption.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency ordinances to be passed. Both.
Ordinance 888, 2022 as amended by Council Members Starr, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request to repeal Ordinance 997, 2021 relating to a tax increment financing agreement with Project Boron for the Orlando Baking Company expansion project, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with Project Boron or its designee to assist with the financing of the Orlando Baking Company expansion project to be located along the Opportunity Corridor, to provide for payments to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and to declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. Ordinance 75, 2024 by by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Finance to employ one or more professional consultants or vendors for the purpose of providing emergency medical billing services, coding, reimbursement, and compliance services for the Division of Assessments and Licenses, Department of Finance, for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Ordinance 108-2024 by Councilmembers McCormack, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to execute a deed of easement granting to the adjacent property owners, their successors, and assigns certain easement rights in property located in the Flats East Bank development area, and declaring that the easement rights granted are not needed for the city's public use. Ordinance 111-2024 by Councilmembers Kelly, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the mayor and the commissioner of purchases and supplies to sell certain city-owned property no longer needed for the city's public use located on West 130th Street to 3945 West 130th Properties LLC or its designee for the purpose of redevelopment. Ordinance 227-2024 by Councilmembers McCormack, Hairston, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects, Port Control, and/or Public Works to enter into one or more agreements with Cuyahoga County and Cleveland Metro Parks to construct an all-purpose trail on the north side of North Marginal Road, including a maintenance and repair agreement with the Metro Parks for a term not to exceed 20 years, with 5 20-year options to renew, exercisable by the Metro Parks, authorizing one or more submerged land leases with the state of Ohio and future subleases for a term up to 99 years, with 2 50-year options to renew, exercisable by the appropriate director, and to replace or otherwise adjust existing adjacent submerged land leases and subleases, authorizing one or more encroachment permits to the county, authorizing acquisition of real property easements and work agreements, conveyance of temporary deeds of easement, and authorizing any agreements to effectuate this ordinance. Ordinance 232-2024 by Councilmembers McCormack, Bishop, and Hairston by departmental request, authorizing the Director of the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects to issue a permit to the Sherwin-Williams Company to encroach into the public rights-of-way of West 3rd Street, Frankfort Avenue, Public Square West Roadway, Superior Avenue, West St. Clair Avenue, and West 6th Street by installing, using, and maintaining various objects. Ordinance 262-2024 as amended by Councilmembers Casey, Palencic, Jones, Gray, Kelly, Slife, Starr, Griffin, McCormack, Bishop, Santana, Spencer, Hairston, Conwell, authorizing and directing the Director of Finance to establish a fund for the use by the Division of Police to reimburse officers for certain expenditures. Ordinance 310-2024 by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into a lease agreement with RAS Aviation, DBA Zone Aviation, for the lease of certain city-owned space at Burke Lakefront Airport for a period of 1 year, with 4 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 327-2024 as amended by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request to amend Section 9 of Ordinance 692-2021 relating to contracts and licenses necessary for ongoing mandatory environmental compliance for the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 340-2024 as amended by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more agreements with United Way of Greater Cleveland as the lead partner organization to implement a program to provide access to legal services for covered individuals in eviction proceedings under Section 375.12 of the Codified Ordinances, Legal Representation in Housing Court. Ordinance 341-2024 as amended by Council Members McCormack, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of City Planning to accept a grant from the Project for Public Spaces for the West 29th Street Open Street Program, determining the method of making the public improvement of installing one or more pedestrian plazas along West 29th Street, authorizing the Director of City Planning or appropriate director to enter into one or more public improvement contracts, authorizing other contracts, and applying for and accepting gifts, grants, and or services from public or private entities needed to implement the grant. Ordinance 342, 2024, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Runway Safe for proprietary services of labor, training, and materials needed to inspect, maintain, and repair the engineered materials arresting systems for the Department of Port Control for a period of 4 years. Ordinance 387, 2024, as amended, by Council Members McCormack and Slife, to amend Section 196.03 of the Codified Ordinances as amended by Ordinance 40510 relating to residential parking tax exemption.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember House Jones.
Before we move forward, Councilwoman House Jones and Councilwoman Spencer.
Please may I add my name to Resolution 321.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Councilwoman?
Please add my name to Resolution 321.
Councilwoman
So
Jenny
noted.
Spencer.
Mark me as a recusal for 227. Thank you.
Thank you.
So noted.
Duly noted. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Palencic, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Palencic, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. On 227, 15 yeas, no nays, 1 recusal. On all others, 16 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 234, 2024 by Councilmember House Jones, changing the use, area, and height districts of parcels of land west of Crawford Road between Wade Park Avenue and Kenmore Avenue, and adding an urban form overlay district to the south side of Wade Park Avenue.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember House Jones.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Palencic, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Palencic, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Second reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 321, 2024, by Council Members Conwell, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, approving the creation of a new special improvement district in the city by University Circle Incorporated as an existing qualified nonprofit corporation, approving the amendment to the Articles of Incorporation by University Circle Incorporated, creating the special improvement district, accepting petitions from owners of property in the proposed district, approving the initial comprehensive services plan for the new district, declaring it necessary to provide police and safety services, providing for an assessment for the cost of such services upon benefited property in the district, and declaring an emergency.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember House Jones.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on adoption.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. We'll now go to introductions, and I have a couple that I will acknowledge first and foremost. And if the good folks from the Neighborhood Leadership Institute, an organization I'm so privileged to help found, could please stand, and their director, Travell Harp. Give them a round of applause. Thank you all for being here. I had the privilege, and you can be seated, but I had the privilege of addressing the class earlier. Those of you who don't know, at Cleveland State University, there's Neighborhood Leadership Cleveland. Just like you have Leadership Cleveland, you have Neighborhood Leadership Cleveland. It's a great class that they participate, but then once they participate, they actually become part of an alumni, where I know Michelle's here, but there's thousands of members that are a part of the alumni, and these are residents that live all throughout the city of Cleveland. So thank you all for being here today. Keep up the good work, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. I also want to make sure that I acknowledge the University Circle Incorporated. They have a very dynamic new leader, Kate Borders, if she could stand up, and Elise Jablonski and Tom Wetzel, who's the chief. I know the chief financial officer, the whole team, if they could all stand up. But Kate and Tom have been working very close with myself, Councilman Conwell. I know that Councilwoman House Jones has a very small part of it, but the SID district, we know that we have about 50,000 people that come in the University Circle area every day. So now they will be assessing the businesses and the groups that are in those areas in order to try to provide better services. And Tom is top notch, used to be chief of Richmond Heights, but's been doing a great job with us here in University Circle since he's been here. So thank you guys so much for being here. Last but not least, I have to acknowledge my good friend Stan Jackson. I know he has a guest with him, but if Stan Jackson, the attorney, famous attorney Stan Jackson, if he could please stand, Stanley Jackson. And I know that former council president Jay Westbrook was here, but I think he left already, but I always want to acknowledge Dr. Jay when he comes, okay? All right, that being said, what other introductions do we have? Councilman Conwell?
Council President, you took all the introductions anyway, so it was kind of hard.
That's all that's left.
I want Travell to stand up again also. He's very, very active. He's been active in the community for some decades. He's a married man, he's a family man, and he's a good friend of mine. We've been knowing each other for quite some time. I have another buddy of mine. We went to college together, Suzanne Van Leer. Are you around? You stand up.
Suzanne.
She was in and she was in Ward 6. Your ward,
It's
man.
my buddy. It's my buddy.
Your ward, extremely bright sister. There's another brother from Huntington, Elijah Winfrey. Is Elijah around? There he is in the back. You don't have to never ever be afraid to stand up, Elijah. So you there, man. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Are there any announcements? Any announcements? Councilman Michael Polensek. Councilman Michael Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk. Just to announce that the Public Safety Committee tour of the South High Police Training Facility, EMS Training Facility and Fire, will be canceled for Wednesday until we can come up with a better time frame because it is a construction zone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll now move to miscellaneous, and I know I have Councilman Kevin Conwell, who's asked for a couple of extra minutes, and Councilman Starr, and then I'll go to Councilman Harsh. But Conwell, you're on deck.
Thank you very much. You know, Mayor Bibb, when he first got in, my residents had high hopes for the mayor, and they said, Councilman, work with him. You've been on city council since 2001, and he and I both have an MBA, and he's a young man, young African-American male, and I said, no problem, I'll work with him. But This piece here right now, I'm very, very disappointed in the mayor, and I've been walking around the house. You guys know how I am. You don't know how I am, but I love my people a lot, a great deal. And I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that. Matter of fact, I'm in love with my people. But the mayor does not understand the way. Here's why he doesn't understand the way. How can you hire someone that violated an elderly black couple's civil rights? How can you do that and bring them up here? Because he doesn't understand the way. When you look at the fight dealing with civil rights, you look at Emmett Till in 1954. His civil rights was violated. When you look at Rosa Parks and Otis Nixon, how they brought in Martin Luther King to battle for civil rights. When you look at Medgar Evers, who fought for us, he fought for us. That's the reason why you're where you're at today, and the mayor is where he's at today, because my ancestors, the mayors, also in stars too, fought for us to get ahead. And when Bull Connor, this guy hired someone like Bull Connor from what we had in Birmingham that was busting my people upside the head and sicking dogs and violating people's civil rights. My people left Birmingham, Alabama to move up north for a better way of life and a good job. That's why they left. And I'm quite sure the mayor's people left also because black folks' civil rights was being violated, and then you turn around and you hire Philip McHugh. You hired him while you're hurting our people who had to leave the South to pull and to move up north. And what kind of message? We are in the middle of a consent decree. What kind of message is the mayor, he's in leadership, is sending his safety forces? Because we don't want people to violate people's civil rights, and then you bring him in. Then the other police officers that will do the same thing, that's doing the same thing, safety director, they'll see that too. And by you hire, I would never, let me tell you this. If I had someone that was, and I knew of someone that was violating African-American civil rights, Spanish civil rights, the LGBTQ civil rights, I would call my roommate up and I'd tell him a few choice words. But I wouldn't bring him and put him in front of my people. You're the mayor. You're supposed to be in love with your people. Why would you bring someone in that was violating these black African-American couple civil rights, and you bring them in and put them over your people? You're supposed to be in love with them. Well, I'm disappointed. I am disappointed. I walked around my house all this weekend talking about it. And let me tell you this, as a musician, I went and did a gig on Saturday, and the people said, what about your mayor, man? What about your mayor? The same ones that supported him. They out there talking in the community. I said, what you talking about? Man, what made this cat bring up someone that violated these elderly couples' civil rights, and he bring them up and put them over us? That's the same thing Timothy Loman did with Tamir Rice. The same thing happened with Brillo with 137 shots. I said, man, I don't know. I'll talk about it on Monday. And then I went to a birthday party Sunday on Wade Park. They said, Kev, what's going on with that, man? I said, I don't know. I'll talk about it on Monday. We see that. We know that. My parents, my grandparents came up from Birmingham, Alabama to escape that. You think they're not going to talk about it? That's why the mayor is not here today. And I've never talked about you guys to anybody else because I said I would work with you. But then when you do something like this, it hurt my heart. I'm so serious about this. I'm the same guy that went after Tim McGinty, the prosecutor, for when he said a no bill on Tamir Rice. Walked door to door in my community, and I dropped flyers telling people, do not vote for McGinty because of this. I'm the same guy that fought Judge John O'Donnell and went around the state of Ohio, not once, but twice, because he let Brillo go for the murdering of Timothy Russell, Melissa Williams. You don't think this hurt people? this hurt me, man. The mayor is African American just like I am. And then when you bring someone up here like that, that got people talking. The same people that supported him in the Glenville community. So yes, I am disappointed. And what we should do, Mr. President, we should put a charter out, just like they're doing over at the county behind this foolishness that just happened, that we need to vet. We need to vet out who the directors, the chiefs. When he bring them in, it should go in front of council. So we, city council, vet the hiring process out. I don't mind, I'm gonna discuss it with you, but I don't mind drafting legislation so we can vet it. That's just how upset and disappointed I am. And I got the right to be upset and disappointed.
All right, we have Councilman Richard Starr and then Councilman Chris Harsh. Councilman Richard Starr has asked for extra time.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, members of this body. Thank you, my colleague, Council Conwell, for understanding. And one thing I'll just say before we get started, and just my remarks is, Council members, we have a job to do. Number one responsibility we is oversight. So in 1912, an amendment known as Home Rule was passed in the Ohio Constitution, granting Cleveland the authority to control its municipal affairs. As a result of this amendment, a commission was formed to draft a new city charter for Cleveland. One of the most debated topics during the commission's discussion was the size of the city council. Some people believe that a large council elected by ward was more democratic, as it held council members accountable to their constituents. Eventually, a ward-based 26-member council was established in 1913, and by 1923, the number of members was increased to 33. Not all folks read the news entirely, so tonight, I have to speak on the truth about what's happening in the city of Cleveland. The D.C. police spent months investigating a felony gun charge against a 70-year-old woman, Ms. Sherrod. In May of 2015, D.C. Detective Philip McHugh launched an investigation into a felony assault with a dangerous weapon. A woman called the D.C. police and said that a church-going grandmother pulled out a gun, a black handgun on her, after she backed into the woman's car, creating a fender bender accident, which was false allegations. The accident led to Detective Philip McHugh being assigned to the case. First, Detective McHugh checked the database with the state and the federal law enforcement database to see if either of the Sherrods have ever purchased a gun, which showed that the elderly couple had never, ever bought a gun. Next, Detective McHugh then put out a high alert to local and national law enforcement to alert of Ms. Sherrod's family vehicle, saying that the vehicle has been involved in a possible felonious assault with a gun. They sent this out to all the law enforcement, in which it took 6 weeks to find the couple's car. You know Grandma don't drive that often. Once the car was pulled over, the Sherrods were in their vehicle, were there. The officers then pulled up and pointed out shotguns and weapons at the elderly couple. In addition, Mr. Sherrod is legally blind. Detective McHugh was then notified that the law enforcement had stopped the car. He arrived at the scene where he searched the car personally himself because he believed that they had a gun, but he didn't find a gun and no weapons. After not finding a gun, Detective McHugh asked for Ms. Sherrod to come to the police station voluntarily. Ms. Sherrod was in fear and respectfully declined. She said, "No, because I don't trust you, Detective McHugh." 2 weeks later, around 9 p.m., while the elderly couple is sitting at home, getting ready for bed, they get a doorbell knock. Detective Philip McHugh brought the police there looking for a search warrant to search the house. Once again, you don't find no gun. Instead, Detective McHugh puts out an arrest warrant for Ms. Sherrod to be arrested, saying that he had a video that showed Ms. Sherrod had pointed a gun at the time of an accident when she waved her hand at the woman who bumped into her car on an accident and was flipping out on her. Ms. Sherrod and her family was devastated when they seen that he asked for an arrest warrant. So at 5 a.m., she went to turn herself in with her pastor by her side. The Detective McHugh made a blind man cry, and he put a grandma in her Sunday's best behind bars, all due to false allegations. Detective McHugh affidavit states, the quality of the video is not clear enough to see what the object that was in Ms. Sherrod's hand, but the victim described as a black pistol. After all, it was a silver revolver, and then not a gun at all, saying simply they saw a metal object in Ms. Sherrod's hands. The female victim then revealed that she has mental health problems with medication causing memory lapse. If that woman had pointed a gun at her, if Ms. Sherrod had did any one of those things, she would have took off and ran for her life. But that did not happen. Years previously, Detective McHugh was penalized yet again for an unauthorized police vehicle chase, losing a vacation day. A vacation day. The system is broken. Additionally, McHugh is nothing but the roommate to our Mayor Bibb. He's a friend. He got rid of the drug test for him, did a very short background check. They didn't do the Google search. They didn't go in depth like they do our officers that be trying to join the police force. But guess what? He could come in and be a senior advisor to our safety director. But let's call it out what it is. His title is assistant director, not senior advisor. That's the salary of an assistant director. The administration response defending McHugh hiring is like saying it's okay to hire the officer who killed Tamir Rice since he was found of no wrongdoing, which is a flawed argument. Given the serious allegations against McHugh, he must resign from this position within the city of Cleveland immediately. The city's decision to hire him without proper vetting and transparency is unacceptable, and we need to hold them accountable for their action. The administration terminated Assistant Director Jakeem Adai of Public Safety for violating city policies. Still, they bypassed the policies for driving a city vehicle when they hired McHugh. Why does safety advisors need a take-home car? Do other advisors have a take-home vehicle? What about the chiefs who do work out of his office? Do they get the same privilege? Does directors, does building housing inspectors who's doing the work in our city have the same privilege? This administration used police officers, escort them to humiliate about a half a dozen departing black cabinet members and senior employees, none of whom did anything nearly as grievous as the filing a false car theft report to terrorizing an elderly couple based on the allegations of all at that Fort party in an auto accident, but expect us to overlook that Mr. McHugh did those things and co-signed on putting them in a role where he will influence policy in this administration. This administration has fired Director Tessa Jackson because developers were unhappy that she was looking out for the Cleveland taxpayers and adhering by the public policy. He hired his mayor, the mayor, his college roommate who violated federal laws at the cost of D.C. taxpayers. This administration fired Paul Patton, Director of HR, for trusting his belief and integrity, and this administration fired Dr. Calhoun for all alleged allegations. This administration has lost Assistant Safety Director George Kocher, who resigned because of the nepotism taking place in City Hall. The council is here to advocate for and protect our citizens. This council does not hire, fire, deploy, or administer. We are responsible for the oversight and take this responsibility seriously. We've lost several senior leadership positions in the safety department. We're concerned about safety, though. We're hundreds of police officers short on our police force. However, Jakeem Adai is responsible for recruiting the 51 cadets that we got in our academy right now. When the administration instructed Director Kerry Howard not to attend the safety summit, Jakeem Adai was there putting in the work. Again, this administration isn't trying to hire more police officers, but they are acting like they are concerned about safety. African American leadership has resigned or left the safety department. We're worried about safety. Our director responsible for the cameras usage by our safety forces has resigned. We are concerned about safety, though. We've recently hired a senior level position in safety, which is checkered by a past that includes allegation of constitutional violation against an elderly couple. We're concerned about safety, though. Reports that multi-unit living facilities and high-rise buildings are not getting fire inspections, but we're concerned about safety, though. Reports that our safety and law enforcement withheld vital information from the monitoring team, we're concerned about safety, though. This administration is telling us who they are, as well as who they value and respect, and we'd be fools not to believe them. 4 years ago, we was told, Cleveland can't wait. Look at our city, we still waiting.
I did have Harsh, but Harsh has deferred to Councilman Anthony Hairston. So Anthony Hairston, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I don't need as much time as my colleagues have asked for, and I won't be too long tonight. But I couldn't sit here and not say anything to support my colleagues in their calls for administration to do the right thing as relates to the gentleman who was just hired here in the city of Cleveland as a safety advisor. I'm confused about what is taking place here in the city of Cleveland. But before I go there, it's ironic that we opened up the meeting from folks over in the Cudell neighborhood talking about a place in a park in a school that is looking to be built and a park to be removed, but it's the same place where Tamir Rice lost his life by an inept cop that we hired that is still being offered jobs in other places to this day. And we're going to end this meeting to talk about the same type of injustice still happening here in the city of Cleveland. So again, Mr. President, to the folks who are here, I'm confused. What are we doing here, right? A recent press release that talked about the firing of Jakeem Adai, and again, this is not about Jakeem, this is not about politics, this is not about anything if you know me, right? This is what it is. The department cannot operate when folks don't meet the standard. I'm paraphrasing the press release, okay? Matter of fact, I'll pull it up. So the Department of Public Safety cannot operate and professionally meet its objectives while tolerating the failure to comply with professional expectations or being subject to utter disregard for policy. Can someone explain to me what took place with this gentleman who came from Washington, D.C.? Just that. The contradiction must stop. When I looked at Mr. and Mrs. Sherrod, I looked at my grandparents. I looked at my auntie, not my aunt, my auntie. I looked at my uncle. I looked at many constituents that I represent. And it hit differently to see that family and to hear the pain and agony that they face when an individual was told on many occasions who knew on many occasions that the evidence did not exist. There was nothing to support the actions of the gentleman who we have run here as our safety advisor. Those type of actions are the reason that we are in the situation we are in now in the city of Cleveland, why we are under a consent decree, Director Griffin. I hear my colleagues complain about how much we are paying to our monitors. Well, we better get ready to pony up, everybody. If we want to get out of the consent decree, we cannot make decisions like the one we've made here. And I feel bad for the gentleman, for the young man, because he's relatively young still. He's around my age. Right, let you tell it, Conwell. And I feel bad for him that he's had to go through this. But I can only go back to the feeling of those individuals who felt even worse of what they experienced. Cleveland cannot go back. We've been doing good. My officers are putting in the work every single day. Anybody know me, I always thank my 5th District officers and their superiors every chance I get. The city cannot go back. Think about it. If it was your grandmother, if it was your grandfather, if it was your aunt or your uncle, the administration knows what to do. Make it right. Make it right. Don't put another dark cloud on our city. We've been through enough. And again, I just feel bad for that family, and I don't wish what they experienced on anyone. I think about the countless individuals who are behind bars now who've been wrongly convicted of a crime. About so many individuals who have been exonerated after evidence have been brought forward to show that they really did not commit the crime, or evidence was fabricated, or what they thought existed really didn't exist because someone said that it did. So please, for those who are empowered to make the right decision, make the right decision. This is not one to die on. This is not a hill, as we say, we pick the hills that we want to die on. This is not the hill for our city to die on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Last but not least, we have Chris Harsh, Ward 13.
I'll just, as a segue, I was made aware of the same situation that my colleagues have talked about this weekend, and if anybody at home is wondering what is going on, you can Google this. There's a YouTube video. The local news in D.C. did a 10-minute segment about this incident that happened in D.C., and if you want to know what a big deal it was, local news did a 10-minute segment on it. Local news doesn't do 10-minute segments on anything unless it's a big deal. So if you watch that segment, you'll have a really good idea of what my colleagues are upset about. It is an absolute head scratcher. These folks seemed like they were out antique shopping when they got into a fender bender. These are just some lovely people, and it's hard to imagine how this interaction happened in the first place. But Mr. President, I didn't want to talk about that tonight. I wanted to actually toot my own horn and talk about me and the great success that I had last Monday. As you all are aware, in 2017, I took my beautiful wife and our lovely children to Tennessee because we wanted to see a total eclipse of the sun. Because I heard that totality and 99.9% totality is the difference between night and day, and I wanted to see it at night. And so for 7.5 years or 6.5 years, I've harbored this, this great expectation for what everybody was going to experience last Monday. And I think last Monday you all finally found out why I've been so excited about the total eclipse. Did everybody enjoy that? Was that not the most spectacular thing you've ever seen in your life? I passed the resolution making that possible. Thank you. You're welcome. I introduced the resolution declaring April 8th Cleclipse Day. Without that, the moon would not have lined up with the sun. The only thing more astronomical than the odds of a moon being positioned in such a way to cast a shadow on our planet are the odds of Cleveland having the weather that we had on April 8th last Monday. I did that. That was my resolution. You're welcome. I just want to take a victory lap. But I hope that everybody had a similar experience because I've been asking everybody, how was your eclipse and how was your eclipse? And I think you had an emotional experience. I think everybody that stood and stared into the southwest sky felt something inside of them that was odd, that was unique, and that was powerful. And I think most of you had that experience. If you're human, I think you had that experience. And Mr. President, I worry a lot that not much holds this country together. I worry that our cultures are so diverse, so divergent, that we don't have much in common. We don't listen to the same music. We don't go to the same movies. We don't watch the same TV shows. We don't eat the same food. We don't hardly do anything as a country together. Our biggest national holiday, Mr. President, is Thanksgiving, and we celebrate that by avoiding each other. Okay? But for 3.5 minutes last Monday, millions of us stood outside and looked in the same direction at the wonder and the beauty of this universe. And if you believe in God, it was holy. And if you don't believe in God, it was the craziest mathematical coincidence in existence. And I hope that for 3.5 minutes, some of us realize that we have more in common than we have uncommon. I don't know what the word is there. I'm not a wordsmith, Mr. President, but I think that feeling is something that we can tap into because we need to start looking at each other as brothers and sisters, and we need to understand that we exist on this little ball floating in space for a very brief period of time, and we have the opportunity to do good things and helpful things. And Mr. President, I would like to recommend to this body that we actually create a time capsule. And Mr. DeRosa, what would it take to bore a hole into the basement of City Hall and drop a little message in there for our colleagues in 420 years? In 420 years, Cleveland will be graced with another total eclipse of the sun. And I think it would be wonderful if we could pass that message along to them. Maybe some shades, maybe some eclipse shades, maybe a little note to our neighbors that follow us in the future. Because the thing that holds human species together is time. That is what we all have in common. We're here for a little bit of it. We pass it on to the next generation. We hope to leave this place in a better state than we found it. And I hope that everybody got that feeling, got that sense, and I hope that we can just have a little bit of unity in this country, in this city, and that we can look at each other as brothers and sisters, because I had an emotional experience, and I hope you did. And let's do it again in 420 years.
Thank you. I will tell you, it was a magical experience. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, and it surpassed all my wildest imagination. So thank you for this. And I do think if we could, I don't know, you're the chair of you're official chair of the thingamajig you just talked about, the time capsule or whatever. All right, I'll take on now one more task. All right, and Joe Jones said he'll help you, so you know you're in for it now, okay? All right, Madam Clerk, please excuse the absences.
By Councilmember Bishop, that the absence of Councilmember Moore is hereby excused, seconded by Councilmember House Jones.
All right, thank you. This council is adjourned to the next regular meeting on April 22nd, 2024.